Hello friends, how you guys doing today? Good? It's the first session. It's the start of a great week for you guys. I hope everyone's full and ready to emerge in our day here at Dev Summit. Hopefully no one falls asleep, food coma. You know, it's a little rough after eating lunch. But hey, we appreciate you guys coming out and taking the time to spend with us this week. My name's David Martinez, and this is my colleague Jin Shaosan. And today, so we have various sessions throughout the conference regarding Web App Builder. And so this one's a getting started session, talking about how we build apps with Web App Builder. And then continue throughout the week, and actually throughout the later part of the day, we have other more deep dive sessions. So we have kind of mix and levels for all. So let's get started. But before I get started, just a question. How many of you guys using Web App Builder today? Okay, perfect. Okay. So some of this might be some stuff you already know, but what we always strive is to teach you something different, right, that you walk away with. And what we like to do is make this informal as possible, so you guys have questions throughout this presentation. Feel free to ask, because at the end you might forget them. And the only difference between you and us is we have the mic, right? So we're all friends here, and let's get started. So first thing that we like to do is show you some example apps that we feel that are very well designed, but also get good amounts of traffic that are built with Web App Builder. And the first one is the U.S. domestic property of the GSA of the U.S. government, okay? It's a dashboard type of application, right, with widgets from our infographics, map-centric, but also pulls in dynamic charts into that, right, using Web App Builder dashboard theme. Another one is the Maryland's DOT storm. Gives you information about frequently asked questions, and it has a video in there and all information regarding it. These are pretty well-designed sites, all built with Web App Builder. Little different ones here are missing pets, right? Finding information regarding missing pets and giving information on those in a nice, good visual UI type of application. Another one pretty interesting on your left-hand side is the deaths in Grand Canyon. So think about aggregating all this data from 1869 and giving you a nice visualization representation of what those data points look like. So there's just some really good examples that are built with Web App Builder to give you an idea of kind of what you can build with our technology. So what are we here today for, right, in this session? It's to talk about creating web apps, okay? And with Web App Builder for ArcGIS, what's changed, right? Besides many new enhancements and features, well, our core guts of it haven't changed. What is create new apps without coding, right? Interactive WYSIWYG user experience, what you see is what you get. The ability to do 2D and 3D apps, and also the ability to have 2D apps that run in the browser on any device, okay? And of course, what we need to do is we have to make sure that's all circulated and integrated within the ArcGIS platform. And then more importantly, it's built with our own tools. So we build our technology, Web App Builder is built with our ArcGIS API for JavaScript, right? As many of you know who do use it, when you create a 2D app, you're using our 3x API for JavaScript. When you're creating a 3D app, you're using our 4x API of JavaScript. And the beauty of it is you can extend it, right? So we have a programmable framework that you can extend the application and add different widgets, different workflows, or even themes of that matter. So there's many different editions, and these are questions that we always get. What's the difference between Online, Enterprise, and Dev Edition? And they're obviously on different release cycles, right? So ArcGIS Online is embedded in the website, right? It's non-extendable, right? It's WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. Out of the box widgets, out of the box themes, okay? And then we also have ArcGIS Enterprise, which all is part of Portal and such forth. You can extend that, you can add widgets to that environment, right, that you could put in your container. And I'll show you an example of that later. Someone grab a widget, you can push it in production and access that widget in that environment. And more the power, where the power comes into is, because we're all developers, is the developer edition, right? You can download and install that locally, and then you sign into your ArcGIS Online instance or your ArcGIS Online org, okay? And basically that grants you access to that application itself. So if you haven't partaken in this, there's this live user group on ArcGIS Online that has Web App Builder for live user sites, showcasing various applications, Maybe you guys can get some ideas of the different apps created. And if you do have any applications that you created with Web App Builder, we invite you to share them on there to showcase your work, right? Because we're always looking for not only user stories, but good examples of what people have built with Web App Builder, okay? So how do we prepare our content within the apps? Well, it's pretty simple. You got a web map. Everyone's familiar with the web map, I'm assuming. Okay, and then we got scenes. So web scenes are the 3D control of that. So you create and you share that content, right? You can integrate ArcGIS living content, lots of rich information from there. You also have the ability to configure utility services. So let's say you have a custom geocoding service, or you can use ArcGIS Online and provision it for that. We get a lot of questions about printing too. You can stand up printing services or use the ones that are online. And then of course, you can also take advantage of premium content such as directions and routing and such forth. And all that comes into your permissions of your app, and you can control the app settings, how that content is used and serve up. So when someone requests that app, let's say there's directions and routing in there, you can provision that to make sure it fulfills that directions web request on the back end. So let's talk about workflow. And the workflow in this example is creating a new app. So first, every app of ours has a purpose, right? We just can't go out there and just build an app just for nothing. We have to think about what is the requirement of the app? What's the purpose? What are the end users going to expect? So first we got to think of what is that app purpose, and that's with everything. And then from that app purpose, what we could do is we could start to sketch out what makes up those components of that app. So first is our brand. So our brand is our theme, right? What we strive for when building Web App Builder is to give you multiple themes so you can choose a different UI that's based upon your unique brand, what your organization is striving to achieve. Could be color ramp, could be typography, right? Fonts. It could be layout of it, where panel placements and such, right? So it gives you that breadth of flavor. And then of course, the map itself, right? The map's very centric to the application. Meaning that it's a map-centric application, and then you got to be able to respond with the map and load layers and such forth. And then what are your worker bees? Those are your widgets, right? And then of course we have to have attribution, right? So our information about what that is, our logo, information about title and such forth, okay? And all these would make up that application. And then from there, what you could do is pick up your style and layout. From there, styles or placements, colors, etc. And then you can select your 2D or 3D map. What is that application? And then of course you have your various tools on there, widgets that are going to be on the map or relative to the map. And then of course that encompasses your attribute, which is your logos, etc. And then what you can do is you can preview and launch, right? Pretty straightforward. So it's a builder process that you can do directly in Web App Builder. So let's go through a quick sample of how you do that, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to show you, so I have an org, which is online, but I also have Enterprise, which I'll show you later. So let's start off with something fun, because I strive to have fun at the developer conferences. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to load our application. We start from our web map, the very basics, that's going to be your foundation. And here what we're looking at is haunted places throughout the US. So here's a heat map of looking at haunted places out through US that I found on GitHub that someone created, which I thought was pretty interesting, because if there's over 10,000 points, and someone's curating all this data and they're giving you some pretty good information about, like, this house is haunted because they see ghosts. Kind of interesting. So 10,000 points, probably better to look at it in a heat map sense. So here we're looking at a web map of haunted places throughout the greater states. And you can see there's densities, there's some good strong concentration here in the Los Angeles, some good concentration back in the New York area. So let's create an application with Web App Builder, okay? So first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and click the share button. And we're gonna go ahead and create a web app. Now remember, I'm using the ArcGIS Online version, so this is what you see is what you get. Okay, so I'm gonna select Web App Builder. I'm just gonna go ahead and accept these defaults, right? It's title, tags, you always have to have a tag. Okay, so here gives you a GUI interface, right? So you have full control, immersive experience to change things as such forth. So the first part, when you launch this application, it brings you to a theme. Okay, remember I talked about themes, your brand. I like to go things a little more subtle, where I don't have too many, controllers, too many widgets that are relative on the screen, depending on the workflow of the type of application. So let's go ahead and select the billboard theme, which is a pretty nice theme. As you notice, it has no top controller. Widgets are on the map, okay? The next tab is map. Well, of course, we have a web map, but I can go in here and change that web map example. I can also do other overrides, such as the initial extent. I can use a current map view extent. So if I'm going in here and doing different things, I can use that, or I can use web map default. And then I can also do custom visible scales as well if I wanted to that. And of course, I could set refresh interval rate. So if I'm having any kind of data that's changing, you know, let's say 0.5 seconds or whatever, you can have that refresh and make sure it always pulls the latest. But since we have our web map, let's go ahead and present to our widgets. Because what we've seen is the majority of the work that you guys do is in the widgets, right? Because let's face it, that's the function of your application itself. So what we're going to do is, you have the option here within Web App Builder is to turn off many different widgets that are on the map itself just by deselecting here and just hiding these widgets. And this gives you a nice, good control of what your app's going to look like. So that I'm okay with not having too many widgets on screen. So I'm going ahead and select the number 1. And then the next thing I want to do is, I have this map, and of course, what would I do with the Haunted Places map? Well, I'd want to share it. Well, it just happens to, we have a widget for share. So what I could do is go ahead and hit share, select the share, and then what this has is the ability to share your organization's your app publicly when it's shared. I don't have it shared, but what it would do is, if I had to share with everyone, which I can do, this allows you to embed the map in an embedded website. So I can give you the HTML to take that map and embed it in your website, okay? So if I go ahead and select OK, another great thing about Web App Builder, it's truly responsive. And what I mean by that is, we've designed it to build in a responsive framework into it. So you know how we all become accustomed to looking at information on our phone, right? Well, we expect that same behavior that we see on our computer, on our phone. So with Web App Builder, what it does is it gives you these different preview modes. So let's say you know that your users regarding that app purpose are maybe mobile friendly. You probably want to select a theme that doesn't have a controller, you're not occupying too much real estate. Or you might want to be thinking about building the app in the mindset of, think mobile first, desktop second, right? Because if majority of people are on mobile, we have limited real estate in that purpose. So here you can come in here and you can preview the app, etc. You can also, if you have a QR application on your phone, you can scan that. It'll read that QR code, which is basically the web URL of that app. In this one, you would sign in to your org if it's not public, and you could see what that looks like on your phone, right? Without going to the App Store to download an application to serve that up. I think that's pretty cool because before you would have to develop that responsive framework. Okay, at 568, I need a breakpoint to screen my screen size and make sure all my widgets on my components line up. Well, guess what? That's all built into the framework, right? And we designed that purposely to make sure that you don't have to code for that. Okay, so let's assume our app's ready to go. All we do is hit save and then launch. And then what we have is our web application here called Haunted Places, right? And there it is, straight out of the box. Here's our widget. And then there's the embedded information to embed it in the website right there. So I could copy this code, put it in a div with that iframe on my web page, and then it's going to show that map. So this is a nice way, so let's say you guys have requirements to share an application in a website. You could use Web App Builder to embed it directly in there and showcase that information in there without having to write any code, okay? I know some of us want to write code, that's cool. I'm one of those, I like to write code too, but sometimes, let's face it, sometimes your boss comes in at 5 o'clock and says, hey, I need this application created. Here's the purpose of the app, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's Friday, I got to do this. Well, now you have Web App Builder in your toolbox to help you meet those deadlines, okay? All right, so let's go back to our presentation here. All right. Okay, so we talked about creating an application. So let's get a little more deep dive and let's talk about some of the functionality of widgets. So we have various 2D widgets, and that's the bulk of our widgets today. In fact, we have over 51 of those widgets that not only the core group builds from our Web App Builder development team, but also our solution team builds widgets as well, okay? And then when I was talking about the solutions, they're very focused widgets that are designed on a particular vertical, a particular task. Some new ones that have come out in the past 3 months are threat analysis and analyzing threats in certain areas. Also to visibility, doing view shed of an area, taking elevation and doing that. And then, so our solutions team builds these focus widgets, and then what we do is we get them built into the core of the product, and sometimes they're up on GitHub as well. You can download those and extend them, but they're always striving more to create these particular vertical widgets that are focused on a particular solution. And one of the good things about that is we listen to your feedback. So what I failed to mention was Jen Shaw is the product manager for Web AppBuilder. She's constantly hearing you guys about feature requirements and things that we need, and she's getting those baked into our product schedule to make sure that we're adding those requirements to our application to make sure it serves the purpose of your guys' app design. Let's talk about some very focused widgets that we see some common workflows, and the edit widget. How many of you guys are doing editing today? Okay, that's good. So the editing is probably one of the most used widgets of Web AppBuilder, because like we said, the name says you can edit information on there. Not only tabular information, you can also edit relationship tables. Sometimes your map is just the first view of the app, but maybe what you want is give your users the power to edit tabular information that's relative to the map, right? So the map's just the read information, but that information that you want them to edit is in a relationship table. Well, you can do that directly in Web AppBuilder using the edit widget, and we'll show an example of that. So basically, you can also do create updates and merge attributes and features, change geometries, etc. But the best part is you have full control to enabling what they can do as far as your users, right? And there's this nice feature in there which I'll show you guys is what we fail to realize sometimes is when you do an edit, it's a live edit to the database. So there's no going back. Web AppBuilder has this cool feature called undo. So let's say your user's making a mistake, they can hit undo. And you can also prompt them to save it to make sure there's some kind of safety measure in there as well. Okay, I talked about related tables. Another widget that's very popular as well is this widget called Near Me. So let's say you have information that's relative to a point of interest of where your users are. So what's around me, right? You have the ability to buffer features within a certain area. It could be an address from a geocoding service. It could be a feature layer, such defined as a search source. And you can find Near Me options in there, and you can do parameters such as, all right, I want 5 miles my max, my min is 0.5. I can have a slider control. It also gives you the ability to click on a map. We listen to a map event, and then it highlights that area. And I'll show you an example of that. It's a pretty cool widget, and it's very powerful as well. Other widgets, there's the ability to create dashboards, right? So sometimes we need to create these statistical information where we're reporting information to our stakeholders. You can do this using the dashboard theme and the infographic widgets. We have over 16 graphic templates that are built into there. So if you guys have any statistical data, numerics, right? We could read that in there. You could do things such as, averages, sums, and do these calculations directly in this dashboard and create these really compelling applications that provide these nice numerical statistics to your stakeholders. Now the map in that case is obviously secondary, right? The information that's going to be more up in front are the numbers, right? So a good, powerful way to provide that nice visual representation of the numeric values as a user zooms in and what that makes up on that dashboard itself. So regarding these infographics, you can visualize and monitor attributes and, like I said, statistical data to give you total number of features in area. And all this is based on a two-way binding between, as I zoom into the map, my numbers update as well. So there's two-way binding going back and forth. I zoom out, it's a direct interaction between the two. You don't have to do that programmatically. We take that care for you. Another one is the swipe widget, right? So if you have two different data sets, right, and you want to look at before and after, you can use a swipe widget to look at that information on that. It works very well with things such as, raster type data. obviously imagery, to look at stuff, how it changes over time. You can obviously do it features too. So let's say you have data that changes over time, you can look at that as well to see the comparison over the two. Another popular one is the coordinate conversion. So the ability to change coordinates on the fly. And this is designed between common formats. And then for those who are doing military grade reference system, right, there's also a widget for that. And like I said, there's 51 of these widgets that are built in out of the box, but it just doesn't stop there, you know, because we give you that developer edition where you can extend it as well. So let's say you do have a requirement where, you know what, maybe one of these widgets gets you 85% there, right? Well, you can extend it as well, right, in your own environment. Another one that I like to really focus on too is the screening widget, right? So you have an area of interest and you can analyze specific areas for potential impacts, right? Very strategic workflow, but it's very powerful because it gives you the summary report of these potential impacts based upon a particular area, right? Suitability model, right? So if we're trying to find the best location, right, and taking rastered information and identifying where something is likely to occur, we have the suitability model that can allow you to create that, which is basically conform to a widget, and it calls our backend web service to do that. Okay, so let's go into a little more deep dive, and we created a simple application, right? So you're going to notice we have a common workflow for those that are new. So before I created the application within the web viewer itself, but what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and what do we like to do when we come to Palm Springs? We like to eat, right? We like to see what kind of restaurants are out. So what I did is I grabbed so I have this POI data set that I try to curate some POI data from Palm Springs, which includes restaurants and all kinds of stuff. Not only do you don't need to create the web application for Web App Builder directly in the map viewer, you also have this side control here that you can create a web app and use the Web App Builder here, and this creates the web application as well. So here we're going back into my portal instance. Okay, here we have our Palm Springs restaurants. We have a nice style vector base map here. It's called newspaper. And what I want to do is I want to give my end users a purpose. And what that purpose is I want to make it easy for them to find food of their choice, okay? Using a filter and using the Find Near Me widget. So let's go ahead and build that. The first thing that we want to do is I want to design this application that it's more focused on the interface of the application, the widgets, as opposed to having a header bar up here. Beauty of Web App Builder is I can go ahead and change that. So let's go ahead and select the dark theme. And if I don't like this style, which is the color, right? This is just a color hex. You can do a custom if you wanted to, but I'm going ahead and select this default blue here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some worker bees to help our users find information pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead and click on widget. This one has a dark controller. This is called a controller. And in this application, we don't need a layer list because they're not going to interact with that. And we don't need a legend because they're not going to interact with the legend. So I'm going to go ahead and hit plus, and then I'm going to go ahead and select this filter widget. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a new filter. It's going to ask you to pick the layer that you want to filter. And let's change this to Palm Springs restaurants here. And then I'm going to go ahead and change this icon. And instead of going with the basic, we have different icons based upon different themes. So in this one, I'm going to go ahead and select points of interest. And sticking with our same theme color, I'm going to go ahead and try and see if we have one that's a blue food here. I think it's right here. My mouse is very sensitive on this touch device. Here we go. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select the symbol size. That's okay. All right, so now that I have my icon, so when that comes up to that filter, the next thing I need to do is add an expression, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and add an expression. And here there's these categories called cuisine types. So I'm going to head to the string called cuisine type, and then I'm going to select is of any, okay? And I'm going to ask for values. And basically what this is any does let's say you have one feature layer and you have multiple categories, right? No longer do you have to do if, and, or, this, and this. You could do a selection on one service and select multiple categories. It's pretty powerful. So and I'll show you that. So I can do a queue up here to say, okay, what type of food are you looking for? What type of food are you looking for? Okay. And then here I could say, okay, all right, so now all these points look the same, because remember, this is POI categories. This has many different restaurant types, and I'll show you. So let's go ahead and click filter. And here we got Palm Springs restaurant. This filter turns on the filter. So right now this is draggable panel. I have 0 selected, so I could say, okay, what am I looking for? I am interested in, let's say, Japanese food and maybe some Mexican food and maybe some Indian food, right? So as you can see, now the map has filtered based upon my categories of that, right? Now that's pretty powerful, because now I'm able to filter basically on multiple values without having to do these and or if conditions on that, okay? Okay, sticking to our restaurant theme here, what if I wanted the ability, now I want the user the ability to find restaurants relative to where they're at, okay? How would I be able to solve that workflow? I'm gonna go back into my widgets, and I'm gonna go ahead and select the Near Me widget. And then basically we're gonna add a search source for the feature layer, and that's going to be our feature, which is Palm Springs POI. And let's just change this to restaurants here. And then we're just going to configure this where it gives us a parameter to do 0.5, half a mile, and a mile search on this. So I'm going ahead and select these defaults, POI name, that's fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to my search settings, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to set a buffer visibility, and then I gotta select the search layers here, which is my POI information. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and define these parameters. I don't want my users to walk too far or think about my application that it's not usable. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 0.5, and let's go ahead and do maximum buffer distance is 1 mile. So if I go back in here, I click on my Near Me widget. All right, so we're over here. Now I can click on the map. It gives you all the information here within that buffer region, right? So now I have an application that can give my users it's usable, that's very focused on tools that are already baked into Web App Builder itself, okay? Now I simply just save it and then launch it. Okay, so now let's go back to my content, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna look at some editing capabilities, right? One of the questions that we get asked a lot is the ability to edit features that have relationships, right? So you have a unique global ID. It's associated a feature that has a one-to-many relationship with, one feature. So here we have Dev Summit. It's a region of orders. It's fictitious data. I have various territories, right? So the difference between red and green is one's performing and one's not. Green is performing. But what I have in here is I have different relationships that are related tables. So here I have a pop-up with a branch, and then I have orders by reps. And these are relationships. So one-to-many based upon their features. So how would I edit that relationship table, right? We're not editing the top relationship without editing the feature itself, okay? So what we can do is let's change our theme here, and let's just go and select box theme, and let's add our widget to our box controller, and let's add our edit widget here. And here there's a tool visible, and by default we make sure you enable undo redo, because you want to make sure that remember it's a live edit to the database. And you can select this, don't apply edits to the attributes until they click the save button. I always like doing that. And then you can do other things, editable set layers, honor the settings in the web map, or have any custom settings. Pretty straightforward on that. Okay, so now that we have our widget configured, I'm going to instantiate that, and then I'm going to select a feature, right? And then here's my related table. I'm gonna go in my related table, and then I'm gonna say, okay, this person is changed, right? So this is just a direct edit to the database. All right, and close. Yep. Let's hit stay, and then let's hit save. So now that feature has updated a one-to-many relationship on the back end, which is basically a feature table, okay? So you can do these edits to a relationship table in Web App Builder, right? So if you guys have features with one-to-many relationships, Web App Builder's your savior because you can do these edits pretty quickly and give these users that workflow, okay? All right, so let's get back to our presentation here. And the next thing we're going to talk about is 3D. This is my colleague Jinshaw. All right, so you're on 3, Jinshaw. All right.
See my 3D?
You guys see her screen? We can't see. You guys see her screen 3D? All right,
cool.
well, thanks.
So how many of you have used Scene Viewer? Okay, good. So compared to Map Viewer, Scene Viewer is for you to create 3D maps, right? This is Scene Viewer. I just add interior landmarks as the 2D feature services, right? Just like two maps. This is New York buildings. That is the scene layer. So I have these 2 layers in the scene, just like we have 2 layers in the map, right? Then how we are going to create 3D application. We go to here, share, and then create a web app. Select Web App Builder. Very similar to you create a map from in the map viewer, then click share to go to Web App Builder. Now we are in the builder environment. 3D builder in Web App Builder very, very similar to 2D builder, right? Except one difference. Here is scene. It's not map, right? Other than that, everything is similar. So the theme, we are going to choose dashboard theme because I think it's interesting. So here, I don't need this many widgets placeholder. I just need 2. So basically, you can design your own layout with dashboard theme. This is very cool. Play around with it. So they have different layouts, right? You have 5 widgets here, 3, and then 9 is all your choice. Then you can remove them if you don't like it. So here, I'll go to the widget top here. I would like to add maybe measurement, default unit, maybe feet. Lastly here, the second widget, I like to add legend to show all the layers. Lastly, remember this 1, 2, 3 on-screen widget. I can add something from here saying slides. Slides is very similar to the 2D bookmark, spatial bookmarks. So if I go here, just slides, that's just different view of the scene. So here I already have my legend here, and I want to measurement a building. So first I do the area measurement. Do it again. Maybe it's too sensitive on the resolution. New measurement. Let me zoom in to a little bit closer. Here, area, start new measurement. Okay. Maybe the third time will be charm. Okay, you get idea. Basically, they will give you an idea about this. Let's try it again. Yeah, it's working. The third time, yeah, it's a resolution mess up a little bit, but you get idea, right? You can get area. Now we go to measure the distance. Distance is relative easier for me. So I want to know what's the distance from here to, to different kind of top. Maybe this top building here. So you get all the dimensions, the distance. Quite neat. But if you want to say, I don't like to have a feet, if I change to yards, they will automatically recalculate. So this is new features we add, 3D area measurement we added in last year. This is just a 3D reality visualization, right? It's a reality visualization. But there's another part of 3D we want to see, that is data visualization. Let's go back to here. Let me show you the data, right? I have 2D and 3D data here, especially I have all the 2D feature services. I want to see them, how they're going to behave in 3D. So this is globe. I'm going to add 3D FX widget. It's designed for data visualization. I use point, extrusion is fine. Show values, yes. Let me choose a layer first. World Bank data. Show values. Display field, I want to use country. Visualization field, let me choose imports and exports. Turn it on. So they give you idea, United States, the first top one for the exports, and China follow it up, right? So you get this nice visualization about things. Then you go to another one that will be imports, right? You say, okay, how about, can I change the color? Yes, stop here. Say, let's go back to this thing. I'm going to change to, maybe this one is better. Okay, save. Let's just launch it. Whole visualization of this 3D data is very normal 2D feature services, just point 2D feature. Then you can make it looks amazing with 5 clicks, right? You see me doing that very quickly? Like it? Okay, this is for point. Is how about polygon or line? We can do so very quickly as well. So, for example, here I'm going to add another 3D FX widget. Now I'm going to say I'm going to do the area still based on World Bank data. Here I'm using the country name. I'm going to add population. Where's my widget? Save. Let's change to another thing. This is population come back, but I don't like the color. Let's go back to pick another color, maybe this one. So you will see the polygon extrusion out, right, based on the population. The name in China, India is top 2. We all know that. So you can. So basically, you say, okay, I don't like this kind of color. Can I choose another color? Yes, you can do different kind of color if you like. Bright yellow is ugly, but make to the point. Okay. Lastly, line. Okay. What about lines? Let's do lines as well. Here is the lines. The scene I'm going to use, this one. This one's good. This one scene is good. Just add the same 3D FX widget. That widget is magic, right? Can do everything. Now, this time I'm going to use Jade Trail. Let's design for the line. The data I'm going to use, Queen visit. So British Queen Elizabeth visit so many countries. Let's see where she's going without passports. Okay, let's go to 10. This is kind of a little bit fake data. Not fake data is there, but description sometimes is not there. Nice, right? Execution. So maybe this is a little bit subtle. Let's change to another effects. Okay. Maybe it's fireball. Oh, what that looks like. Let's choose. Oh.
They're blowing up.
Save. Let's preview launch. Do I think she will like that? Maybe too much for her, but it's fun. So rotate. Wow, that's all the country. 2015, visit Germany. 2014, France. Anyway, you get idea. With the simple 2D feature services we all have you can turn them to be something dramatic. Cool, thank you. Give it a try.
Okay, you guys see my screen there, web customization? Sorry, I have to ask, I can't see. So let's talk about some options in the last 15 minutes or so. So what are options with the web app customization? Because what happens is you want more. When you start using Web App Builder, you want to get different functionality, right? Does it meet your workflow? So you have the ability to add custom widgets. That's either in Developer Edition or Enterprise. You can add custom themes. So let's say the particular brand doesn't work to your liking in ours. Don't worry, you can extend it. That's with Developer Edition. And you can also export app templates, 2D or 3D apps. Okay, so let's say you have a template you define you want your users to use in their portal or ArcGIS Online instance. You can save that to your organization and they can use that app template, okay? So how do you get the Web App Builder Developer Edition? Pretty simple. Just check your system requirements. Just make sure it can handle that. You download and extract it. It's all from our developer site. That's your experience. You start up Developer Edition, and then you connect to a portal, which is online or enterprise, okay? Registering an ID to your machines, basically allowing authentication through OAuth to launch that instance of the Developer Edition, okay? Another way is you have the ability to add a custom widget that maybe you found by either one of us or through the community, and you want to put it up in your instance, right? So you can just download that file. Remember, we built a framework that everyone follows when you extend a widget. It's extending this thing called the base widget class that registers within Web App Builder. And as long as you follow those guidelines, people share and contribute these widgets. And we have a lot of widgets out there. And you can download, extract that, put it in the right directory, and it's loaded into your environment. How about a custom widget within Enterprise? How do you do that? Well, one simple requirement. You deploy widget to a server, so it's a web server, right? That web server's got to be exposed either what's in your domain, If you're sharing it with the outside world, make sure it's through a web server that's accessible, right? You register that widget with your portal. It's called an application extension, and then you integrate that widget in Web App Builder. All right, so let's walk through that workflow since we have some time here. So here we have I have a enterprise instance on AWS, okay, that I built particularly for this session and another one. So simply, I have a widget that's up on a web server, okay, and it's a custom widget. So I want to add that to my environment. How do I do that? So first you have to have permissions to do that, to add item. So you can go add item, call it an application, and you're going to see this application extension builder, okay? So what you need to do is you need to make sure you're copying and pasting here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select this, go back to my application, and I'm going to give it a title. So this one's a Flickr search widget, okay? And let's call this widgets. And then basically I'm going to go ahead and add item, okay? Now this is publishing to my org. Now if I wanted to be able to share it with people within my org or other people, I could share it with everybody, but I'm only going to do it with my instance of ArcGIS Enterprise. So I go ahead and okay. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my content to show you how you call this widget from your application. So let's go ahead and let's delete this one. It wasn't supposed to be there. So let's go ahead and open up this coffee shop's web map. Let's create a web app using the web application builder, okay? So we're gonna go in here. This is coffee shops throughout the US by different categories. Let's click a theme here. Let's go to widgets. Let's go ahead and put it in our box controller, hit okay. And you're gonna notice we have this tab called default, but here we have this custom area. Here's our Flickr widget, okay? Here, you would have your users give their own API key, right? But here I'm just having it hard-coded in there. I'm gonna go hit okay. So now, if we launch this Flickr widget, let's go to Palm Springs. Now I gotta be careful here because, you know, I'm not filtering anything on basically what people put on Flickr, but okay, so now we go in here, let's go to Palm Springs, right? So if you could see, those are all my photos that integrate with Flickr, right? So there you go, right? So that's a custom widget that I invited to my environment, okay? And if you're interested in learning how to build this widget, we have a session later on that. But that's how you add an application extension for a custom widget to Enterprise. It's part of a web server, right? And your developer edition is pretty simple. I'd give this widget, pack it up, put it in my STEM app. If this was a 2D app, put it in widgets folder, and just reference it, and it'd be available in that as well, okay? So let's get back to our presentation here. Okay, so what are our options with extending it, okay? And this is outside the scope of the presentation, but we have later sessions to talk about this in more deep dive. But first you would start with the Web App Builder Dev Edition, right? If you want to learn about extending. And basically, all you have to really think about, there's two ways to extend it. You have widgets and themes, okay? Like that Flickr widget I showed you, there's a couple things you need to remember, right? Widgets execute at runtime. They're configure in, so they're not cut and paste. They're self-sufficient and distributable, right? So I could share those. It needs no container, right? It needs a container, but there's no coding block involved. And it has a programming framework within that container, right? How we register it, how it interacts with Web App Builder. Same thing with theme. You're gonna see a common pattern as you start to get into this. It's applied at runtime. It's configure in, it's not modified, CSS. It needs a container, self-sufficient distributor. Maybe I can share it easy with you guys if I create one. You just plug it in and it runs. And then of course, it has a programming framework, right? So that's how you extend Web App Builder when you think about it. It's either widget or theme, okay? But I always like to push people to say, you know, if you're gonna think about going down that route, look for widgets that are out there. We have some good helper widgets as well, but a lot of people, our community, are sharing with them that you can easily drop and paste into your environment, just like I showed you when I loaded to Enterprise. Okay, so how do you become successful with using Web App Builder? Where do we point you guys to? Because let's face it, we all help each other, right? We always don't know the answers to all the questions. First, you start with GeoNet. We have a product community for Web App Builder for ArcGIS, which is one of the top 5 GeoNet communities. We have a developer group for custom widgets. You can find a ton in there. And we have a developer group for custom themes too, as well. And then of course, you want to get your reusable code. Our solution team has on GitHub their widgets, right? So if you want to go ahead, fork it, clone it, or maybe just want to download them, extract them, that's fine. But if you want to contribute back, fork it and do a pull request with the new branch, etc. And then the raster team at Esri has widgets specifically designed for image services, right? So we're contributing back to GitHub, and you can grab those and put those in your environment as well. So what do we have for you throughout this entire week? So I tried to we have a lot more than this. Actually, one I didn't put on here, Jen Shaw's doing a demo theater today on editing.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow on editing.
Yeah, editing, all the capabilities. Editing is one of strongest strengths of Web AppBuilder. So we have 4 or 5 widgets have the commitment to the editing. So give us a try.
Yep. So here's a list of our sessions. So we have one from 2:30 to 3:30, developing for mobile. We have this one that Jinshaw and Moxie is doing, what's new and what's coming. It's at 4 o'clock. And then later on, 5:30 to 6:30, me and my colleague Gavin are doing a deep dive into Web AppBuilder, customizing, extending, getting into code, showing you how to extend it. And then tomorrow, we have a deep dive in enterprise deployment, some considerations, me and another colleague. And then our other colleague, George, is doing advanced development techniques with Gavin, more deep dive. So we have a lot of different sessions for you today. And with that, we'd like to open up to any questions. And first of all, we'd like to say thanks for coming, and hopefully you guys learned something new. And if you have questions, feel free to take them here. If not, you can come up either way, but thanks a lot. You, sir. What's that? Custom templates? Yeah, no, it's just, you could do a theme, and we could show in the customization one. Yeah, it's exporting. Maybe we'll show that at the end. Yeah, so basically what you're doing is, let's say you create a theme, right, and then you have widgets that make up that. What you could do is you could go save as, export as a template, and as long as you have your Portal Online configured, you could save that as a template. So when users go to create an application, they see that template in the carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it exists on your server.
Yeah, so
right.
Basically we didn't host your custom templates. You host it in your server.
Right.
We add a reference, an item in the online.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
If you have enterprise, you can export as template, but those templates will not have your custom widgets. Yeah, then the templates will have the themes. We predefined 9 themes. You just choose one of them. If you do the developer edition, you can build your own theme, right? Then you can do so. So it's different, but you still can do export templates, your own templates to online without writing any code, or your enterprise as well.
Yeah, so like Jen said, so let's say you want to lock down what your brand looks like when users are creating those, you can lock that down.
Another important thing, people asking why I want to use Developer Edition. Can you give me?
Yep.
So you can download the Developer Edition SDK from here. The UI, UX at the beginning is very similar. So people are saying, I don't need to do any writing code. Why I need using Developer Edition? We find out our professional service, a lot of organizations require Developer Edition because they have enterprise. Enterprise don't get update that often. But Developer Edition follow up ArcGIS Online. We have 4 releases every year, so you always get those latest new widgets, new best enhancement, right? If you say I stay with the Portal Enterprise, they don't have those enhancements I'm looking for, don't have the widgets I'm looking for. The solution is if you cannot upgrade the Portal, like military requirement, then they use Developer Edition and download the latest Developer Edition and host it in their environment. Register Developer Edition in their portal to do things. Then you still can create new application with the latest enhancement and widgets. That's a lot of process, a lot of things people asking. So I just gave us another thought why we need developer edition.
No more? Okay, well, great. If you guys have any questions, we'll be here for the next couple of minutes. But thank you for coming and have a great week. And if you guys have any questions, you can come see us in the island. But enjoy your week. We appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a